Okay, so I think we're ready to come back together, guys. We're going to take a look at, once we kind of have our attention focused here, I know we're diving into other stuff. This is really going to be the crux of the time that you spend. Inside of Schoology is going to be your instruction and how do I build my lessons? How do I create folders? How do I manipulate my content? You know, how do I present content to my students in a way that's most accessible to all students in the classroom? How do I give resources? And then eventually, how do I provide assessments to my students? What assessments does Schoology offer for me? What are the different types of assessments? How can I customize those assessments? And then, what do those assessments look like on my end? We are going to take a look at you guys as the students. So you're going to have an opportunity to participate as a student. What does it look like and feel like to take an assignment, to do an assignment, to submit an assignment? What does it look like to participate and take an assessment in Schoology? So we're going to kind of answer those questions during our time today. Okay? Cool. Okay, so the first thing is I want to get you guys into this Schoology classroom, or this Schoology course. So what I'm going to have you guys do is if you can go to the very top, you're going to select courses, please. And then make sure you're in the My Courses. Go ahead and click My Courses on the top right. And if you could please click Join a Course. So in similar ways to Google Classroom, Join a Course is going to ask you for an access code. I have the access code right here. It's a couple different places I want to call out for you. It's in your note sheet. It's on about page 3. It's bulleted in green background, in green text.
Caps matter?
Caps matter. It's all. Oh no, it doesn't matter. Actually, we found that out yesterday. Caps don't matter. Don't worry about the hyphens. Just type all the numbers and letters in sequence as you see them there. It's also on the digital agenda. It's also on the agenda if you want, or you can find it in the note sheet. It's a nice, pretty combination here. Outdoing Google Classroom. Jeez, didn't think it could get worse. Ooh. The one in green, highlighted on the back of the agenda. So let's take a second here to make sure everybody gets in. No hyphens. Caps does not matter. Okay, doesn't like it. Try caps. It seemed to work yesterday. What's going on? No hyphens. Works with them too. Works with the hyphens or without. Very secure. Good Lord. Why do they present them with hyphens? I guess to clarify some scaffolding strategy, right? Get lost in those numbers. So once you log in, you should be presented with a screen. It should be the basically what you see up here is what should be presented to you. If it's not, if this is not what's presented to you, go ahead and click Courses, and you'll see a new course available to you. And the new course is our training. Go ahead and click this, and it'll plop you right into our course. Okay, are we ready to move on? Everybody's good? All right. Yeah, I know, I'm still monoviscing, right? Having trouble letting go. So what we've done here is what we're going to take a look at. You guys have already been welcome to Schoology. This was Tiffany's part. Franz went over the account setup, so I'm just kind of backtracking a little bit here. Franz also talked about the course setup. He also talked about, we can expand the folder. He also talked about, Matt talked about setting up our gradebook. And so this is kind of where we are right here. Where we're going to play right now is in number 4. And it's going to be managing course content. And so I'm going to walk you through a couple things. The first thing I'm going to do is talk briefly about organization, so folders, how to move things around, how can I make things generally, where do I put them. We're then going to talk about 2 separate items here. Schoology refers to the non-graded materials, so links that you give students that pop off to other websites. YouTube video links, articles you want them to read on some website. Okay, those are the types of resource materials that are there that you guys would typically deliver like a resource in Google Classroom. We're then going to take a look at the graded items. Graded items are composed of discussions, and we'll talk about how to discuss discussions with your students, and then we'll talk about actual assignments that they're going to turn in through Schoology or elsewhere, and then we're going to talk about assessments. So this is going to be kind of like the overview of what we're going to cover today, okay, in this section. All right. So just real quick, let's take a look at about the layout. We see how this course is structured. We see that kind of we really tried to put a lot of thought into designing this course and presenting it to you in a way that we thought would be facilitative of everybody getting access to this, in a way that we may want to present things to our students. So I think in talking about organization, the backbone of when we deliver contents and package all this stuff that we're going to make today is how can it be accessible to the most students? What tools does Schoology offer me to provide access to my students in different ways? What tools does Schoology offer me to have students demonstrate their knowledge in different ways? And so we're going to go through all those different applications. Okay. So real quick, if you guys go ahead and let's open our folder that we're going to take a look at today. So for managing course content, go ahead and expand that by simply clicking the arrow. So in organization, just be mindful of when we go through how we're going to sequence and package information. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. So we're going to take a look next at informational materials. And so if you expand informational materials, I've just provided all the resources that Schoology gives you on how to organize things. And the same thing with interactive. So these are all resources for you as we move forward. Okay? Okay. So let's get into making folders. So we're going to basically mimic this process here. One thing we do need to talk about that was mentioned before, we know that we can start making all of this stuff inside of here, but we can also make it in our resources. At the end of the day, you guys may not feel comfortable being like, I don't want to make stuff here because what if my students get in there and I'm not ready for them to see it? Okay, how do I play around and develop my lessons and my units so that if they get into Schoology somehow, they don't see anything, only I see it. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to play in the resources. It's going to mimic the experience of doing it here, but we're going to do it in resources so that if your students get into Schoology when you don't want them to, they don't see anything. And then we're going to talk about, once it's in resources, how do I copy it over to my courses when I'm ready? Okay? So for that purpose, let's take a look and let's click resources. I have resources because I've transferred them here. So what we'll do, let's go through some organizational features. Let's just make some folders. And so if we click Add Resources here, this is the same. Clicking Add Resources here is the same as if you were in the class and clicking Add Materials. It's basically the same thing. It just is called something different. So let's go around and play around. Add some resources. Let's start by making a folder. Go ahead and click Add Resources, and let's add a folder to our resource. Let's go ahead and name our folder. Name it something, whatever you want. I'm going to call mine Sandbox because I'm going to play around in it. You can call it a sample folder, whatever you'd like, whatever you're comfortable with. We have the options to give it a color, some considerations when you're trying to chunk the content to present it to your kids. You can give a description of the folder. You can use bullets if you want. So what I did when I made the folders for this course here, in the description, I just put bulleted items that was an overview of the content that the folder is going to have. Okay? So basically, I use the description as a table of contents for my students to see before they get into the folder where the content is. And of course, you could just leave it blank if you don't want anything there. Because they'll probably just open it anyway and not read it. Like, I don't know what they're going to do. Okay? Lots of different features here. Google Docs, lots of Google Doc functionality here. You can insert content. So actually, you can insert images into your description if you want to. It takes up a lot of space, though. Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know. Because if you have an image, you can change it, make it small. But basically, the outline that I showed you of the course over there, there would actually be an image there that shows up, and then it gets really, really long. Depends on your purpose. Up to you, but it's there. You can hyperlink things, of course, if you wanted to have hyperlinks in the description. Highlight your text. And you could hyperlink it off somewhere if you wanted to. So pretty functional description box. Go ahead and click Create. And let's make our folder, and there we have it there. There's my sandbox. So I want to make something inside this folder. So let's go ahead and now let's click our newly created folder. Let's go ahead and add another folder inside of it just for fun. we'll have a chance to play around with this a little later. So when I see my resources, go back to my home, I have my sandbox. I click my sandbox, I can see the contents that are inside of it. So this is how this will function. Okay. Can I clarify anything, guys, on making folders? Things like that? Contents on it? Pretty easy, straightforward. Kind of feels a little bit like Google Drive, right? If you're going to make a folder inside of a folder. So a lot of that functionality is going to be similar here. There's some different things. Once we put this into our course, I'll show you a little bit more of the functionality, but pretty same so far. Okay, so let's go into our sandbox. So let's take a look at what we're going to take a look at next according to our outline. We're going to look at files, links. We're not going to do so much of the external tools. Those were the LTI compatibility tools. We're not going to really go into that heavy. That's something more advanced that if you want to go through that and figure that out, we can talk to us and we can go down. There's documentation for you guys to go forward in the support center if you want to do that. But typically the way that you would add a resource to some sort of assignment sequence is you would add a link to something or you would upload a file like a PDF or an image of some kind. Okay, so let's just add a file. Files are static flat pieces of material. A PDF, an image, a MP3, an MP4, a movie file, okay? Things that, that you have to upload basically from your computer. That's what the files are. So let's go ahead and practice. Let's add a file. Doesn't matter what file it is for this purpose. Pretty familiar language here. Attach a file. So let's go ahead and attach a file. We don't have one. Whatever file you guys have on your drive, whether it's a Microsoft Word doc, whether it's a PDF. Matt doesn't have anything stored on his computer, but I would be looking through PDFs and JPEGs and movie files. So go ahead and find something on your computer and just practice uploading it.
Travis, for you, you could go to Google Drive. Here's
Do it.
Google Drive. You can find a PDF.
Oh, there we go.
You're not going to be able to bring in a Google Doc.
No, you can't bring it in a Google Doc. Just all right. Here's some sort of Excel spreadsheet.
Hold on, quick question. It's taking me only to like my computer stuff.
Right. Yes.
How do I get to my drive? Like you hit attach
Yeah.
file and immediately.
Is this a Chromebook issue? Does anybody else have a Chromebook?
He's on a Chromebook.
Is somebody? I'm on a Chromebook right now.
Okay.
So on a Chromebook it's different
Yeah.
on a Mac.
On a Mac. So
Okay.
typically files are things you upload from your computer.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So you probably won't have the Google Drive option unless it's a Chromebook. So we just learned
Right,
something.
yes. This is
All
a
right.
peculiarity of my machine.
This is a Chromebook. Yeah.
Being a MacBook operator, I
Yes.
won't be able to pull anything up from my drive.
Not in this way.
Not in this way.
Not with the file.
Okay, but we will be able to.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Sure. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Even that, it's only going to be, it's not even, you can't even touch the Google Docs, they're all laid out. It has to be an Excel that was uploaded and that's the version.
Yeah. Okay. So that's basically a file upload. Anything that's on your computer that you need to upload there for students to look at. Okay. Now the next thing we have is a link. A link, simply like a resource you provide your students. Maybe you have a YouTube video you want them to watch. Give the link of the YouTube video. It'll pop off to the YouTube video. You have a link of an article on a website somewhere you want them to read. Pop it off to there. You have a Google Doc. Get the link of the Google Doc. Get the link of the Google form. Whatever Google, you get the link of that document. Put it as a link. Pops off to it. Does that make sense on that? Okay. Pretty similar functionality. Once you click Add Link, put the URL there. Give it a title. Okay? Now there is one more option that you have. Notice when we put a link, I see a new option here that wasn't there before. It says Display in Schoology. Now when this pops up, whatever you guys hover over, the black box, this is the current setting that's set. So I have this set that when they click this link, it's actually not going to go to a new tab. It's going to display within the Schoology window system. Okay? So when we think about wanting to centralize our student experience, you may want to have things displayed in Schoology as much you can, if that's where it needs to be, right? Less tabs. Now, there are some websites that aren't compatible with this. So just like anything, check it. If it works, great. If not, then you'll have to undo this option so that it displays in a new window or a new tab.
The default is displayed in Google.
It defaults to the display in the system. It defaults to display in Schoology. Mm-hmm.
Travis, just for clarification, if I did like say the link in URL, would this do what I would use for a Google form or would I use something else?
Well, yeah, there's multiple things, but yeah, like Google Form, Google Sheet, whatever. So let's say you have a quiz or a test that you typically have on Google Forms, right? We use Google Forms for maybe formative assessments of some kind or something. This is where you would go. Yeah. So there's no, because of that, we'll talk about when we get to Ascend, there's no locked browsers in Schoology. So just like you would use GoGuardian to mitigate cheating, that's what you have to do. Yeah.
Or if you have a Quizlet, you can get
Yeah.
it, that go to
Right.
Quizlet,
Yeah.
and put that in there too, so you can get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Anything. Yep. Exactly. Okay. Okay, now the other option that we have here is if we go down here to page, a page is basically, you guys are familiar with making Google Docs and putting pictures and putting tables and like giving titles and bolds and like maybe your whole assignment is a Google Doc. Are we familiar with that? Okay, we have a Google Suite, and so we've been doing that for a long time here. And so I don't know how applicable this is going to be, but I want to show you what it is. So a page is you're basically making a new page within Schoology where you can add pictures and text, resources, and maybe you copy and paste an article in there and add some images to it or something. So I'll show you what it could look like within the Schoology system. The alternative to this would be to use the link like we just did and display your whole Google Doc in Schoology itself, which is going to probably be the better route. I'll show you what the page looks like. I'm going to have to go out here, show you a page example. So we have page examples nested here. So this is an example of a page that was created directly into Schoology. They added an image here, they put some text over here, they have hyperlinks to things. So if you're wanting to create your content directly in Schoology and kind of simulate what a Google Doc would do, you can do it that way by using Page. The other option is, maybe I already have this in a Google Doc. Why am I going to recreate it here? The other option would be to do the link like we just did, and then display in Schoology. That'd be another option. You already have it there. Yeah, Hanukkah.
I was thinking maybe something else is like shareability. Like if you create something in the page, is it easy to share it with other teachers?
Yeah, you can copy it to courses and copy it. You would have to put it in your resources, and then you would share the resource with the teacher. So like shareability-wise, if this is already in a Google Doc and they're like, hey, what do you have? I'm like, Blue Share, here you go, bam, it's there. And then they can put it into their own Schoology classroom. Yeah.
And if you shared the link to a Google Doc, you would have to share it from Google Docs. You wouldn't be able to just share it from Schoology, like a link to that thing, unless it was a view all.
It would be sharing that link assignment, that link file that you created. Yeah, and like we know, if you use the link option and display the Google Doc in Schoology, any changes you make, yeah, it's dynamic, right?
It's copied to all courses.
Yeah. If you share this with somebody, if you share, hey, I made this cool page in Schoology, check it out. Share it with somebody else, it shares a copy with them. So any changes you make to yours, they're not going to see it on their end because it's theirs now. So there's lots of like these little things of, we all know that any changes you make in a Google Doc, if it's a link somewhere and presented somewhere, those changes are going to be reflected wherever they, as long as they happen here. With Pages, that's not going to be the case. So this is more of like a static document that's here. You can share it over here with your colleagues, but any changes you make won't be reflected. So, if I was doing this, I would just embed it. I would just put a Google Doc in there. Instead of doing a page. I would never recreate something like this unless I didn't have anything to begin with. But even if I didn't have anything like this, I'd probably make it a Google Doc anyway. Just stick the Google Doc in there.
I have a question.
Yeah.
In Google Classroom, for example, we can upload a document that the students, it would make a copy for each student.
Yeah.
Is that, are we coming?
Yeah, we're going to get to that next.
Okay.
Yeah, under assignments. Yeah. Yeah. So just to reiterate, these are all informational materials, resources that students are going to look at, are going to read, not necessarily going to interact with. Right. This is your content you're delivering to them. We're going to get to assignments next, which is making copies automatically for students to complete assignments. Okay. Now, something that some of you guys may like is that we have the next thing called media albums. And so if we're in our sandbox, we can't add media albums directly in here, but I'll show you what we can do. So another option we have are what are called media albums. You guys may not have this option there because we're in resources. Once you go back here, streamline to the content area. Another informational piece is a media album. So you can create a series of pictures. You want to upload a series of pictures that students can look at. Students can actually contribute to the media album if you want them to. So you can set those share settings, whether you want them to be able to contribute or whether you want them just to be able to view the media album. So another option if you're, in whatever class you want. So you can add media albums. Again, media albums would have to be added from the content stream, from the content classroom stream. And you can kind of see it. Let me show you an example of what they look like here. So Passport to Paris media album. So this is kind of what they look like, just as you would expect, just kind of the pictures right there. Expand them. You can add, students can write comments on them if you want them to. You can write comments on there. You can set that to yes or no. And again, students can contribute to the media albums if you want to. They can comment when they upload them and give a description about what it is. So if you're looking to have students, to bulk this idea, maybe they've created something and maybe you're using this as like a walk around or a gallery walk or some kind. Or maybe some sort of analysis that you want to do. It's another option.
Does it look like there's a way to view it any larger than this?
I didn't see. Is there another click there, Anthony? Did you see?
I didn't see like a full window.
Yeah. I didn't see one either. Yeah.
Oh, they can download it.
They can download it? Yeah. Okay. So the last type of informational material is a package. We're not going to really get into packages. We haven't researched what packages quite are yet, but basically a package it's a file you upload from your computer that basically has to be a zip file. So the only thing is you have to upload zip files. So if anybody uses zip files to like download into a zip file, you can then upload the content into here through a package. So if you're in Google Drive, you're like, I want to put this whole folder from my Google Drive maybe into here. The only problem is when you download from Google Drive, it turns all your Google Docs and all your Google Sheets, it turns it into the Microsoft equivalent. And so if you put it up here, it's going to turn into Microsoft Docs. So I didn't really venture into packages. If you want to go and figure it out a little more, I didn't think like it would be something we needed to cover in its entirety right now. It's kind of not Googly. I'm like, goodbye. Okay. So what I'd like you guys to do now is go ahead and let's go back out of here and let's click courses. And I want to talk about this home screen again, so let's go back into the Schoology training course. If you take a look over here, you guys have some reminders. You should have some assignments over here that I've assigned to you. You guys see a stream of assignments over here? Okay. We're going to get to these in a second. Do you guys see these over here? Okay. Now we're next going to venture into, beyond just informational materials, we're going to start talking about assignments now. We're going to create an assignment, and then you guys are going to have an opportunity to go through and complete assignments as a student. You're then going to complete a discussion as a group, and then you're going to complete a sample assignment on a student perspective to see what it looks like. Okay, so that's kind of where we're going next. Before we kind of leave this adventure, can I answer any questions about like files or linking to other websites, or what are the options to kind of get there? Okay. So let's take a look. Let's go back to our resources. Let's go to the sandbox folder we were playing around in. And let's go ahead and add a resource. And we're going to take a look at the options we have to create discussions for our students. And so if I select add a discussion, and give it a title. Again, we have the same type of description box that was in the folder. So we're going to add a discussion. You can describe the... So again, we went back to the resources. We went to our sandbox folder we're playing around with. I added resources, and I'm going to select add discussion. So let's give it a title. You can insert the prompt here. What are the students going to be discussing? What's the prompt they're going to answer? Is there an image that goes along with it to activate background knowledge? How are you going to support the discussion with content here that gets them thinking about what you're asking them to discuss and talk about? Maybe there are links of resources you want them to go to first. Take a look at this article. Maybe it's an argumentative. What's your opinion? Bring in some evidence from the article. Okay, so there's links that you can attach here, just like we did before. So any type of media you need to really prime the student so that they can enter the discussion, that's what you're going to put here, using maybe these links, inserting content here, and then structuring this in a way so students know what to do and have the background knowledge to really participate in the discussion. Okay? I do want to show one other option here. This option here, the microphone. We enabled Flash for this reason. You guys can give audio and video directions to your students through this option here. Maybe you want to talk and maybe say the prompt. Maybe you're not only typing the prompt, maybe in the stream of universal access, maybe you want to say it as well. Maybe you want to record yourself talking into it. This is where we're going with this. Maybe you're recording yourself on the webcam. Here's your prompt. This is what I want you guys to think about. Remember what we talked about a couple days ago. Bring that background information back into them. However you need to support your students, this is here for them. And it may not be that I'm only using one. Maybe I'm not just using this. Maybe I'm not just structuring this in a way on how they're going to be graded or what it is. Maybe I'm doing all of these so I can capture all the students because it may benefit all the students in the class. And again, it takes work at the beginning. Once you have this done, again, it's there and you can copy it to whatever course you want. It's there for all courses. Okay. You can align to a rubric. So you can create a new rubric, or you can copy a rubric if you have one created already. You can align to learning objectives. Maybe you want them to work on, maybe it's language standards in addition to content standards. Because you're having them speak, so maybe you're attributing this a little bit. Maybe there's some speaking standards in Common Core that I want to address here. Maybe they're just content standards, whatever you want, you can track that. Okay, and then you click submit, and it would create it.
And another thing to think about too is there's a lot of options for how students would go hand in work and do work, as you're going to see later on. As you have a template for an assignment, think about what the objectives might be, the directions, but also be clear about how you're collecting work. You're going to be handing in a link to whatever. This Google Documents what's going to be graded. So that way too, there's a better understanding for a student of the expectations, and you bring it that way too.
Yeah, and we'll take a look exactly what Matt's talking about now I'd like you guys to participate in the discussion that I've given you as students. So if we could click back to courses here, everybody, if I'd like you to click courses, let's open up our Schoology course. On the right side over here, you have an assignment. It's the discussion example assignment that I gave you guys. Please go ahead and open up your assignment and complete the discussion assignment. There's a reminder over here. Go ahead. You can either access the assignment by clicking it over here in the assignment feed. Okay, this is the assignment that I've structured to see the potential of how you can create discussions here. Notice the rubric's already embedded for the students to see. Notice I have some visual support. I have clear directions. I have a clear task. And I have clear grading principles for my rubric here. And then at the bottom, you guys can write a comment. So go ahead and do that now. Let's respond to the discussion.
And I can't see people's replies yet.
Correct. You notice that if you've already responded, if you haven't responded yet, other people's responses are grayed out. So you cannot see their responses until you respond yourself. That's a setting that you can change while you build your discussion. Yeah. You may have to refresh to see new responses. I don't think they auto-populate. So we're not going to go into the grading aspect of this. We just want to wrap our minds around the content, how to create it, and how to organize it. Matt, a little later, possibly after lunch, is going to talk about how to grade this stuff, what it looks like from the teaching perspective. So let's take another minute, and we'll move on to assignments. You have to respond first in order to see others. Reload the page. Yeah. Yeah, there are some times, if you ever get stuck in Schoology and you're like, why isn't it showing up, I would just suggest a refresh. Do a reload. Yeah. Turn it on, turn it off again, right? Is it plugged in? You know. Right. And so my task, if you know, my task here was to respond to another student's response. Because your students may miss that, or you may forget to tell them. So again, routinizing this behavior and saying this is the way I'm going to structure discussion so that when students discuss, they know what to do.
I did this a lot last year, but
Yeah.
I gave them the sentence steps for how to reply. You don't just agree.
Right.
You have to agree and add.
Right.
And you
It's
don't
another
just
slide.
agree.
Right. How do we, yeah, exactly. How do I enter an academic debate? Seriously. Exactly. Or discussion, excuse me. Yeah. Yeah, Jen just said sentence starters. So if you need sentence starters, right, it would be a resource to add to this with sentence starters or put them in there, right? Things like that. Good. Any questions, guys, on the experience of the discussion?
And then everyone backed up.
Okay, so we're gonna pivot here for a second. We're gonna leave discussions. And if I could ask you guys to put your attention up here to the screen, and I'm gonna kind of show you the directions on how do we enter into assignments. So let's go back to our resources. Let's go back to that sandbox folder that we're working in to kind of create some examples of what could be a unit. And we're going to select Add Resources. And this time we're going to talk about a direct assignment, right? So discussions are graded. They can be not graded. You can toggle that when you create it. But we're going to create an assignment here. This may be a Google Doc worksheet we want our students to complete and turn into us, right? In Google Classroom, it was I want every kid to have a copy of this. This is where we're going to do this. So let's name our assignment.
Hold on, Travis, a lot of
Yeah.
people still in the discussion and stuff like that.
Yes.
So I wanna
You
make
just
sure
said
you're following along.
you can toggle on and off the grading when you create it.
Uh-oh.
The only option is the rubric, so if you leave the rubric blank, does that mean it's ungraded?
No, you can do points. And I think if we create it in courses, there may be that option when you do it in a course. So if we go to the course content here, so I'm seeing there's a couple differences. So if you create it in discussion, let's go.
Enable grading.
Yes. So if we're actually in the course itself, you can enable grading right here. And then it'll ask you where.
So in the discussion, there's no points, there's only a space for rubric, so if I don't include a rubric, can I still?
You could, the points are right here. The points are right here.
Oh, in the course.
Yeah, in the course itself. So if you make it, the idea is it's a resource. So if you make a discussion, if you make an assignment in the resource, and you copy it to your course, you're going to want to go back to the discussion or back to the actual assignment and say how you want it to be graded. Mhm.
Making a resource
So,
makes it more portable, shareable.
yes,
with a department or
without your privacy
PLC.
settings. Yeah.
Maybe I, as a teacher, grade slightly different than Travis.
Yes.
I gotta apply the program to my course.
Right. So I'm going to create this. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this here. Okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and let's add an assignment. So we're going to go back to our course stream in Schoology training. Let's actually go to the Schoology training because I want to see what those other options, I'm going to show you what those other options are for an assignment. So let's go back to our Schoology training course. I'm going to add an assignment. You guys can't add an assignment because you're students, right? I just want to show you what the other options would be as a student. Because if we did this in resources, some of the options wouldn't be there. You wouldn't be able to do it. Okay, so we would give it a title. Here's my assignment. You know, what's the context, background knowledge? What's the task? You know, what are the objectives? What are the grading criteria? So these are all the types of things that you would do that we've done in the discussion as well, okay? So how are you going to grade them? What are the objectives? So here's the Google Drive assignment. This is where I want to get my assignment from. You guys remember at the very beginning, Franz had you install that Google Drive Assignments app? When you do that, this shows up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go find the document in our Google Drive that we want to make a copy for all students. And so I'd select Google Drive. Here's the assignment. I want them to complete. Attach it. There's the assignment. This will create a copy for all your students. Again, I just click that button, find the Google Drive assignment. Automatically is going to give a copy for him.
Where's that file stored? In their drive, our drive, in a folder?
It's in my drive. So this is my account. I'm logged in as T. Engstrand, so it connects to my drive. So
And it just puts it like a subfolder with all of the student copies in it?
yeah, so what it's going to do is on the back end of this, we know that in Google Classroom, when you did this in Google Classroom, it would make a folder for the assignment and it would have all of the student assignments in it, right? It's a little different in Schoology. When we do this in Schoology, this is the same. Give them a copy, no different. They open it and they have their own copy. In Google Drive, what it looks like is it goes to their Shared With Me folder. And it doesn't create a folder for the assignment. It just has the assignment itself in Shared With Me in the student's Google Drive. That's where that goes. Does that make sense? So what we're used to is when we do this, we make this copy for this student. Let's say I'm a student, or let's say Franz is a student. Franz is in my class. This makes a copy for Franz. When Franz goes in and he opens up this assignment, the assignment goes to the Shared With Me folder in his Google Drive.
But on my drive, does it just put in the same folder as the parent item and just fill it up with?
It just goes to the Shared With Me.
No,
it just
mine
stays
would
there.
be-
Yeah, no, it doesn't make a corresponding folder or file.
Not like Classroom.
In my Google Drive, like Classroom, it does not.
No, not like Classroom.
Where does it go then?
Yeah.
Is it just in your
It's just in theirs. Yeah, it doesn't make a folder with their files in it. I don't know if it goes. I don't know if it goes with Shared With Me.
Who's the actual owner of the file? Whose account is it attached to?
I don't know.
The owner, I don't know. I don't know who the owner of the file is. Franz, do you know? I mean, I own the file, right? I'm giving it to them, but it goes to their Shared With Me.
their
is where it
copy?
goes. Yeah, it's their copy.
Right.
They can add it to their drive from the Shared With Me, but it doesn't make a folder for me
They're the owner?
Until they submit it. So
until
you-
they submit it.
Yeah.
So I would go into Schoology and I can look at their assignments all I want.
Then when
I become the owner, then where is the file in my drive?
What's it?
When I become the owner, where is the file in my drive then?
It's in the Shared. Everything goes to Shared.
Everything goes to Shared With Me.
Nothing is created in my drive,
No.
in the folder in my drive, nothing like Google Classroom.
No.
So it just populates with Shared. That's how they have it set up.
Yeah. They don't make a folder in your drive. Nope. Yeah. That's,
So I would go to your drive to find it, I would go to Schoology to find
Yeah.
the assignment.
Just for grading purposes, remember how it make, like you said, Google Classroom makes a copy for them, but you're still the owner? And you could click on Google Classroom and cycle through your whole class
Yeah.
by clicking over?
Yeah.
Is that still an option
Yep,
now?
absolutely.
Okay,
Yep,
so
Matt will go over all that. Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so instead of going to Google Drive like to look through their assignments to check on their work,
Yeah.
you come to Schoology and check on their progress. Open up and see if they've seen it. So that's how it would work.
Okay.
Yes. Uh-huh. And Matt's going to go, once we create this and we go through it, Matt's going to take you back and say, from the teacher end, this is how I navigate through how they're doing and how to grade it.
There's about 4 ways to do it.
Yeah, yeah. We're just going to do the creation
We're just
aspect.
gonna, so we would just grade in Schoology instead of.
Yes. You grade in Schoology. Stay in Schoology. Yeah.
Created, created.
So students and me, we're never gonna be searching through Shared With Me folder to find any of this. We can just ignore that, right?
Go in there.
Yes, stay in
Everything goes to
Schoology.
Yeah, okay.
Stay in Schoology. Yeah.
Well, the downside of that is then the student never learns any file management strategies.
And that's,
Yeah.
I think that's.
So when they go out into the real world, they're just like, well, where's all my stuff? I don't know what Schoology manages.
Well, and if you as a teacher decide that that's a deficiency of my students, and that's something that you address with other things, but I understand that is a limitation. I did that with, I thought it was even a limitation with Google Classroom, because all my other students were using Google Classroom for other teachers, but I didn't ever use it because I wanted to teach them file management in that way, and so that's up to you as the teacher to teach them that. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So now, important as we continue on. We've made a copy for every kid. This is where we're going to come with the due date. Remember, if we don't set a due date, it's not going to go to the calendar. So we want to set a due date. It's graded. So I'm going to set, you can allocate points, give it a category. This is the grading period. The factor is always going to be 1.0 unless you want the assignment to count like double. So if I put a 2 there, instead of being worth 100 points, it's going to be worth 200 points, right? Because if I put a 2 there. Now here's the thing with factors. In Infinite Campus, you can also do factors. This factor will not connect over to Infinite Campus. So if you put a 2 here, and you expect in Infinite Campus it's going to change this factor in Infinite Campus to a 2, it won't. You'd have to go back in Infinite Campus and change it in Infinite Campus. Yes?
Will it make it a 200-point assignment then it is in campus?
No, it'll be a 100-point assignment. And it won't consider this. It'll be 1.0.
I thought you can't change Infinite Campus for grades.
You would have to change the factor of it, and it would recalculate. It wouldn't be changing the actual inputting of the grade. It would change the calculation in the grade book. Okay, now this part here, another important piece. Sync to SIS. SIS is Infinite Campus, Student Information System. If you want this assignment, when you sync it with Infinite Campus, if you want this assignment to go to Infinite Campus and show in Infinite Campus, you need to have this checked. This is checked by default. Okay? So you don't really have to worry about this if what you're creating should go to Infinite Campus. If you don't want it to, just uncheck it. If you decide later, oops, I accidentally unchecked this, and I need it to go there, you can come back and then check it, save it, and then it'll go over. Again, if you wanted to align with objectives, you could align with Common Core, NGSS, any standards here. So at the bottom, when you guys start creating, these options also impact the visibility for your students. This first one here is individually assigned. I have it set to individually assigned to each kid. Each kid gets a copy. If I'm using student groups in my class, maybe I have student groups in my class and I want this assignment to only go to like 5 kids because it's differentiated. I would create those groups in my course. I click members and I would create groups. And what I would do is once I click individually assign, I can assign it to individual groups. So maybe I had a group, whatever, blue group. It would only go to the students who are in the blue group. I can lock the assignment. So let's say I'm creating this assignment in the stream right now. I can lock it. It'll be unlocked. I can lock it on a certain date. So maybe I don't want them to have access to it after a certain date. This is an assignment. Yes?
Does locking mean that they can't see it at all, or that they just...
They can't submit on it. They cannot submit it.
Okay.
Yes, they cannot submit it. I can lock it now. I can lock it on a certain date at this time. Uh-huh. Okay, so now let's move on to this one. When I'm creating assignments in my actual classroom, let's say that I don't want my kids to see this yet because I'm not done working on it. This is like a work in progress, right? This is an assignment that's going to come up in like 2 weeks from now, but I want to work on it in there. I don't want them to see it. I unpublish it. Basically, it's like draft version of Google Classroom. Okay, it's the same thing. Over here, we have this option. We can copy this assignment to another course. Now remember, your sections are linked. So I'm teaching world history. I have period 1, 2, and 3. Franz went over linking those courses, right? This assignment will go to all those linked courses. But let's say I have a separate course. Maybe I'm teaching 2 AVID courses. I got AVID 9th grade and AVID 10th grade, 2 separate courses, but maybe we're going to do the same assignment. Maybe it's on SAT prep. Maybe it's on financial responsibility. I can copy it to any other course that I want to. So I copy it to another course. Okay, and there's that option there.
Travis,
Yeah.
I don't see that on mine. Is that part of what I'm asking is I had
Yes.
saved it and then I went back into it.
Uh-huh. Is it not there?
Can you only do it the first time when you're drafting it?
When you're drafting it.
Because I saved that assignment
Yeah.
and then I went back into it and I don't see that option.
You're not a teacher in this class.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at it in my class where I did.
In his class, yeah, in his class. So then you made it in resources and put it into.
There's an option from the wheel, or from here.
And you went back into edit?
Yeah, I see it in
But,
an
like,
original
you don't have
assignment,
to go
but not
back
an
to edit.
edited one.
Yeah, you don't have it anymore either.
But look, press cancel. And then
Yeah.
when you clicked on the gear right there, there's the options
The
right
copy
there.
the course.
Copy the course.
Yeah, copy the course right here.
But it's not in the edit.
It's not in the
option
edit
anymore, but
option,
it's
correct, correct. Yeah, we haven't, well, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's option. And then save the resources as well, yeah. Why they put it there as opposed to in the same place, I'm not sure. Okay, thank you. Okay, so there's our assignment. So now what I'd like you guys to do is, let's take a look at what are the different assignment types that there are. So over here, you guys see the assignments that I've assigned you. I want you guys to go through as a student and complete these 4 assignments. Maybe complete 3 of them. One of them is asking you to actually respond with a video response. So those of you guys that use Flipgrid, this mimics the action of Flipgrid where you're talking into your webcam as your response. So go ahead and click through, and I would say let's do at least 2 or 3 of these assignments here. Okay, choose 2 or 3 of these assignments to actually complete, and let's take some time to do that. If you just want to quickly breeze through them all and say, what is this, what is this, what is this, what is this, that's fine, do that. But then go back and actually complete a couple of them, please, so that we have some gradable content from out later.